Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And how are you doing today? Well, let's quickly confirm that you can hear my voice and you can see my screen by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started. So I want to see some response, please. So if you can see my screen and hear my voice, kindly type in hi in the comment section. So let's see what's happening right here in the comment section. Let's All right, I can see Kairu Karim. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Thank you. Manuel 77022. Good morning. All right. Okay, Rafa Lee. Okay, thank you. 0053. Good morning. Thank you very, very much for that confirmation. 241. Thank you. All right, I will be taking this as a confirmation that we are good to go. So I'm so excited to welcome you to yet another promising session on the Extra Speed Live. And my name is Sheriff Daramola. And as usual, I will be taking you on a trading journey in the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us today. Well, as our culture here, we will be reviewing all the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. We are going to be looking at how well these pairs are doing and if there is any adjustment or any additional um, tr- trade continuation or trade management during the review. I will be sharing them. So I will advise you to stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of these advices and opportunities that I will be dishing during the live session. Well, most of the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week, we were able to quickly make some profit on Monday and Tuesday, and since then we have been witnessing an indecision across all the major pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. I think in the last 48 hours we have been seeing price oscillating within a range, and that is a sign that there is an indecision in the market, and participants are actually looking out for a signal that that might be inciting where price will be heading during the later part of this week. So with that being said, let's dive into the chart. Let's see what is really going on in this market right now, and let's make a decision for the New York session today. So the first pair we are going to looking at today is the US oil, and what do we have here on the US oil? Okay, I see you, Carrie. Good morning. Thank you for that confirmation. All right, so we have the situation here on the 1 hour time frame. And if you remember, we have been involved in this selling opportunity that kickstarted on Tuesday. And we have been enjoying that bearish momentum that took price right back into the $72.40 level. And one thing we stated here yesterday, where were we during the live session yesterday? We were around here. Hold on a second. Let's confirm this quickly. Okay, so we were around the $74 area. So remember, we took a sell position prior to the live session, which later closed up in, I think, some small profit, or at worst case scenario, break even. And price broke out of the $74 level, which also lines up with that bullish trend line. And one thing I stated here yesterday is that we are going to be thinking of buying if price breaks out of the $74.65 level, where a retest of structure followed by buying pressure should be giving us an opportunity to join the trend continuation to the upside. However, this is exactly what happened here. Though we saw the breakout, price came back, we started seeing buying pressure. Then we joined the rally to the upside, but unfortunately, we were taken out of that position as we started seeing another bearish continuation to the downside. And one thing I stated here yesterday is that if we have a breakdown of the $74 level, which also shares a confluence with this resistance, with this trend line here, we want to be thinking of selling the US oil. And if you are taking advantage of the selling opportunity here yesterday, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move, as price action moved over 150 pips in that direction before we started seeing this buy pressure that took over the market right around the $72.40 level. And if you look at the current structure that we have here right now, we can see that since price tested the $72.40 level during the later part of the New York session yesterday, price has been caught within a consolidation phase, in fact within a flat channel, which is right within the $73.20 level and the $72.40 area in the last 16 to 18 hours right now. And you can see it's a very tight channel at this point, and this further emphasizes the indecision in this market. So at this point in time, we were taking out with some profit here on the US oil. And the situation right now is that we want to be patient enough to look out for how price action will be relating to the current structure here in order to make a decision for the New York session today. So there are two options that we shall be looking forward to based on this current structure. The first one is either a breakdown of the structure to evolve into a trend continuation pattern that will likely be sending price crashing further to the downside. So that is one scenario we want to be looking out for to join a selling opportunity on the US oil. Then the other scenario that we might be looking forward to is if price breaks out of the $73.20 level. And if you look at how important that structure is, it also shares a confluence with the trend line that we have here. Remember, we identified this trend line here. So if price breaks out of this trend line and then we start seeing buying pressure right above both the $73.20 level and the trend line here, then we want to be getting ready to join a potential trend continuation to the upside, which at this point in time will be seen as a counter trend opportunity and might be a retracement of the previous impulse leg that we have been witnessing here since the beginning of the week. So we had this impulsive leg right from the $82.50 level, which took price into the $72.40, and if a breakout of that trend line happens, price action retests the structure followed by buying pressure right above that level. On our lower time frame, we might be seeing this as a retracement into somewhere, probably the $79.50 level should be most appropriate to place our take profit target for any buy opportunity at this point. So right now we need to be very, very careful, very patient as well, and let's wait out for that signal to happen so that we can take advantage of any trading opportunity at this point. However, if you look at the current structure here and look at the consolidation phase that we have been witnessing here in the last 12 to 15 hours from the structure, you would notice that there is a tendency that buyers might likely break out of the $73.20 level. Look at what happened as soon as price got into the $72.40 level. We saw a very sharp rejection, as you can see with the nature of this candle here in the form of a hammer candle. We saw the same thing happen here. During the later part of yesterday's trading session, we saw that happen, and during the early hours of today we have been witnessing sharp rejection of that level. So this gives us a clue that there is a tendency for buy pressure around that area, and for us at this here, we are going to be looking for a breakout to give us that signal that buyers are very strong at this point, retest of structure, then we could be joining the rally to the upside. However, if a breakdown of the structure happens, that is, price takes out all the buy position here, accumulating more liquidity, then we will be looking forward to selling pressure below the $72.40 area to join that decline to the downside. So these are the scenarios we shall be looking forward to on the US oil. As you can see, it's a very simple setup. So I hope that we be on standby so that we can take advantage of that opportunity when it finally happens. So that is that on the US oil. If you have any questions regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. And if there are no questions, then I will just move on to the next pair, the next option. So are there any questions? Let me take the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the chat before we move on to the next pair. So we have the Picometer. All right, good morning. Jerry511, good morning to you. Glad to have you around. All right. Okay. All right, in the absence of no questions, I guess we are all on the same page. So we just move on to the next option. So the next option we are going to be looking at today is the US Tech. And what do we have here on the US Tech? Now, hold on a second. Let me try and load this up. Okay. Here we go. We have the chart loaded up right now. And where were we during the live session yesterday? We were, hold on a second. Let's figure out where were we. All right. So we were around this level here yesterday, around the $11,500 area. And what I was saying yesterday was that if price break down that structure, then we would want to be selling this option to the downside. But what happened, we saw price retest the structure, then we joined the decline, then we were taking out as price at break even from this level. And well, with the current structure we have here, as you can see, we've continued to witness buying pressure around the 11,500. Well, before I go into the details here, I think it's appropriate that we scale up to the daily time frame. Let's quickly look at what is happening from an holistic perspective, and let's see how important the $11,500 level has been in the last couple of months here. So what I'll be doing here is to scale up a little bit into the daily time frame. And if we scale up to the daily time frame, okay, here we are. The first thing we observe on the daily time frame is that price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and we had the bearish trend line here figured out after connecting the series of lower highs. However, in the month of June, we saw this the structure around the $11,000 level, where buyers negated all selling pressure at that point. So every attempt by the sellers to break through the structure was met with strong resistance from the buyers here. Then if we fast forward into the month of September stroke October, we saw another buy pressure around that area to further emphasize the strength of the buyers at that point. However, if we look at the structure closely, we can see that the buy pressure here didn't last long. As soon as price got into the 11,700, we started seeing selling pressure, which further shifted the demand zone further down to the downside, and we had a new demand zone around the $10,500 level. And as a result of this 11,700, the selling niche here, we were able to identify a structure around there that we have been using as our yardstick for trading options in the last 2 or 3 months now. Now, during the early days of the month of November, we saw a final breakout of that structure. But as soon as price broke out of that structure, you can see what we had here. We had a huge consolidation phase between the 11,900 and the $11,500 level to further emphasize the indecision in that market at that particular point in time. So as a result of this, we were very mindful of taking any trading opportunities here as price continued to juxtaposed between the 11,900 and the $11,500 level. Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Okay, sorry for that break in transmission. I hope we can all hear me clearly right now. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Sorry for that break in transmission. Um, all right, glad that we are back on. So, like I was saying earlier, since the breakout of the $11,700 level happens, we saw how huge the consolidation phase between the 11,900 and 11,500 was. And from a technical standpoint, this portrays that participants in this market were caught within an indecision at this particular point in time, as the breakout of the 11,700, the sudden breakout of that 11,700 sent a wave of indecision in the market, and participants were actually expecting the possibility of either a break above of the structure to send a bullish wave or a breakdown of the structure to send a bearish signal. So with the current situation we have now, we can see that we have a support level at the neckline area at 11,500. So this is the very important structure we have right now, which I was showing you on the 1 hour time frame. So we saw that in the last 1 month, buyers have been rejecting any selling pressure around that area to further emphasize the strength of the buyers at that particular point in time. And since the beginning of the week, though we had this engulfing candle that took price, broke down the 11,700. As soon as price got into the 11,500 level, we have been seeing buy pressure from that area. So there are two options that we will be looking forward to going into the New York session today based on this current structure. The first one is that level could hold buy pressure that might likely push price back into the $11,700 level to do a retest of that structure to send another wave of bearish momentum to the downside. Remember, we had the structure broken on Monday. We had the structure broken here, so there is a likelihood that price might come back to do a retest of that structure to incite another wave of bearish momentum to the downside. So that is one scenario that we might be looking forward to, and the possibility of price breaking out of the 11,700 to incite a bullish wave will also not be ignored. So as soon as price gets into the 11,700, we also want to be getting ready to join a trend continuation to the upside if structure permits us to do so. And if we start seeing selling pressure below the 11,700, then we might be getting ready to join that decline to the downside. So that is one scenario we shall be looking forward to during the New York session today. Then the other possibility we shall be looking forward to is an outright breakout of the $11,500 level. So if price breaks down the 11,500, remember the structure has been holding by pressure for over a month now. If that level is broken to the downside on our lower time frame, followed by selling pressure right below that structure, we will have no other choice but to join the sell continuation to the downside, with a take profit target falling right within the 11,350 and the the $10,900 area. So in order to have a better perspective into what is really going on here, so that we can make a decision for today, we want to understand what is really going on around 11,500 on our lower time frame, in order to have a better understanding of what is really going on in this market. So we will be scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, and let's look at the current structure we have on the 1 hour time frame. Now, this is the $11,700 level, which I was able to show you on the daily time frame. Remember how important that structure is. Then we have this bearish trend line as well, connected yesterday after we saw how price was respecting that structure before it was broken here on Tuesday to the downside. And whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, considering the buy pressure we have been witnessing here since in the last 24 hours, we can't ignore the possibility of price coming back to do a retest of that trend line, or probably the $11,700 level, to incite another wave of bearish momentum. And if price breaks out of that structure retest, then we want to be joining the rally to the upside. So we cannot ignore that option too at this point. Now we have a situation where price is at 11,500. So we want to be very careful here, because we're at a very critical point at this point. Remember, this area has been a strong demand zone in the past, and we saw a structure here that looks like a double bottom structure following this impulsive move to the downside. So we should be very careful that if price breaks out of the 11,580, retest of structure could incite a bullish momentum at this point. So for me to be selling the US tech here, I'll need to see price break down this previous structure here at the 11,400. Is it 420? Okay, for the sake of clarity, let's identify that structure. So we have the 11,430 figured out here. So let's label it for the sake of clarity. So for me to be selling here, I want to see price break down that structure, giving me a bearish signal, followed by selling pressure right below that level to incite another wave of bearish momentum. So at this point in time, I will be very, very patient here to wait out for this bearish signal to give me an opportunity to sell the US tech. But if that does not happen and price continues to climb to the upside in such a way that it breaks out of the 11,580, remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to wait for confirmations in the form of buying pressure right above the 11,580. Then we want to be joining that rally to the upside. And if that is going to be happening, we should be having our take profit target around the $11,900 level. So that is my view here on the US tech. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section as we move on to the next pair. All right. So I can see 689. Good morning. 807. Good morning to you. Lala. All right. I hope I pronounced that very well. All right, so let's move on to the next commodity, and the next commodity we are going to be looking at is the XAUUSD. And the XAUUSD moved as we projected yesterday. Remember, we took advantage of the bearish momentum here right below the $1,808 level, and price dropped to the 1,767, after which it was caught within a consolidation phase for over 48 hours, I guess. And then one thing I stated here yesterday is that we shall be looking forward to buying the XAUUSD if price breaks out of that channel. Remember, we identified this channel between the 1,780 and the 1,767, and I said a breakout of that structure followed by a retest of that level should be giving us a leverage to join that rally to the upside. And this is exactly what happened here during the New York session yesterday. We saw a breakout of that structure. Price came back to do a retest, followed by buying pressure around that area, which led price to the upside, and price moved over 1,000 pips, 1,100 pips in our favor before the selling momentum came in from that juncture. And for those who took advantage of this opportunity, kudos to you guys. I hope you were able to make some money off this movement that happened yesterday before the selling momentum came in at this particular point in time. Now that we have the situation running here, what is going to be our plans during the New York session today? Well, from the look of things here, remember we identified the sell window here between the 1,790 and the $1,800 level. Remember, this is the 1,800, and remember how the 1,800 level has been a major selling niche for participants in this market in the last couple of months. Let me quickly show you how important that level is for the sake of clarity and for those who missed out on our early session for this week. So let's go up to the daily time frame. Let's quickly have an holistic view, and let's see how important the $1,800 level is, so that we can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about here. So look at what has been happening here since the beginning of this week. The beginning of the year. We have the $1,800 level serving as a major determinant of price action. At the beginning of the year, we saw how that level was holding buy pressure at one point in time. We saw the same thing happen here in the month of May. We saw buy pressure from that same area before we witnessed this significant breakdown of that structure in the month of July. And since this breakdown happened, price has been trading below the $1,800 level to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point. And as a result of this, we were able to identify the 1,000 area as a supply zone. As we can see, every time price comes within that structure, we saw selling momentum coming from the market at that point. And in the last 2 weeks now, we saw that price is back within that $1,800 level. And one thing we were looking out for at the beginning of the week are two situations here. That is, if this situation here evolve into a trend continuation pattern, breakout retest of that level, then we want to be joining the rally to the upside. But if we start seeing selling pressure in such a way that price evolves into a reversal pattern, we want to be taking advantage of the selling opportunity. And reversal pattern is what we noticed at the beginning of the week, right below the 1,800. Remember, we were able to take over 3,000 pips as price moved significantly well to the downside. So now that we have the situation running, we saw as soon as price tested the 1,765, we saw another bullish momentum. And one thing I will be looking forward to here is to see price continue in the direction of that reversal move, where price might not be able to break the previous high at the 1,800, where a breakdown of the 1,765 could signal another wave of bearish momentum. And remember, we have a major event coming up tomorrow. That's the publication of the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, which is coming up tomorrow, Friday. And obviously, participants in this market will be anticipating this event, and we shall be seeing this anticipation reflected on the chart as price action. And what we are seeing in the last 48 hours is more or less a consolidation phase, showing that there is an indecision in this market, that participants are looking forward to a major event to decide if we are going to be going up or we are going to be going down at this point. So, and that's why we have been seeing this consolidation phase in the market in the last 48 hours. So right now, if we are going to be selling the XAUUSD, I'm going to be looking at somewhere right below the 1,780 with selling pressure below that structure to give me a signal that I should be going to the downside. And if you look at the structure here, during the mid-month of November, we saw that the 1,780 level was holding a selling niche for participants in this market before the breakout of that level happened. So if price comes back below that structure, we might want to take advantage of the that selling opportunity right below that level. So that's my view here on the daily time frame. So let's scale down to the lower time frame. Let's see if the structure here might likely evolve into a situation where price will drop below the $1,780 level. So going back to the 1 hour time frame, what can we see on our chart? Remember, we identified a sell window right around here, which is as a result of the previous impulse leg. So the sell window we identify falls within the golden zone area, which is the between the 50 and the 78.6%. And what we saw here is as soon as price got close to the 61.8% of the previous impulse leg, we started seeing selling pressure from that level. So will this sell pressure hold for today? Are we going to start seeing selling pressure coming in on this market? As you can see, we enjoyed this bullish momentum to the upside, which came into the 618 area. We saw price come back into the 1,783, lining up with this bullish trend line, remember? And we saw this bullish attempt again, but price was unable to break the previous high. And as soon as that price came back into the $1,783 level. So what I'll be looking forward to sell the XAUUSD is to see a breakdown of the 1,783 in such a way that we see selling pressure below that structure on our lower time frame. Then we might want to be joining that decline to the downside. And if price breaks down the 1,780, retest of structure should give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Then a further breakdown of the 1,767 should also give us a leverage to add more position to this trade. So we can see the current setup here for selling opportunities here is likely going to be giving us multiple entries. That is, if price breaks below the 1,783, which also shares a confluence with this bullish trend line. Remember, we had this bullish trend line figured out here. So if price breaks down, retest the bullish trend line with selling pressure below that level, we want to be joining that decline to the downside with an expectation that we want to be adding as much position as possible as price breaks down the structures that I identified here. So that is my view here for selling the XAUUSD. So I will continue to look out for selling opportunities right below the 1,783. So this will make things a little bit easier for us to take advantage of any selling opportunity from here. So right below the structure, with our stop loss right above the 1,787, then take profit target still falls within. For in the meantime, let's place it at the 1,767. That's where our take profit target will be. And if we start seeing strength in the sellers as price breaks down, retest the structure, and the selling momentum continues very well, then we might want to extend our TP with the hopes that price will break down the 1,767 retest to add more position to our existing trade. So let's see how this is going to play out during the New York session. Now, what happens if price does not drop below the 1,783 and instead price continues to climb to the upside? Are we going to miss out on that opportunity? Well, no. I was able to have a structure here that we shall be using to guide our trading activity. And if we bring out our line chart here and connect the series of lower highs here, I will be calling this a temporary one at this particular point in time, as this trend line here could likely help us guide our selling opportunities on the XAUUSD. So if price at any point in time breaks above this trend line, you can see how price has been respecting the 1,783. We've been seeing buy pressure from that level. So the only way we can know if this buy pressure is going to be a true one is if price breaks out of the 1,783, we see a retest of structure. It could be a retest of this trend line or a retest of this bullish trend line. The most important thing we are looking forward to is buy pressure above that level. Then we want to be joining that rally to the upside with a take profit target around the $1,800 level. And one thing I will say here is we continue to move our stop loss as soon as price moves in that direction. So this is what we are going to be looking out for to buy the XAUUSD. So that the two scenarios we are looking out for is this. The first one is if price breaks down the 1,783, we want to be looking out for selling pressure on our lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. And if instead price breaks above this bearish trend line, then we look out for buying pressure right above that structure to join the rally to the upside. So it's a very simple setup. Don't get it twisted. It's a very simple setup here. So let's get ourselves prepared to catch the move when it finally happens. So that is that on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions regarding what I've just explained, feel free to drop your comments in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So in the absence of no questions, let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the USDJPY. So on the USDJPY, remember, since the beginning of the week, we have been profitable on this pair as price action continued to find higher highs and higher lows. We joined the trade right above the 134.500 level, and we continue to enjoy that bullish momentum as soon as price broke out the neckline area of this reversal pattern we identified here. We joined again, and price has continued to move to the upside. We also joined around this area. Then we joined here yesterday, and I told you yesterday that we should be moving our stop loss to somewhere right below the 137 Japanese yen level to negate any to mitigate against any risk of a bearish momentum at this point. Remember, I told you that. And what we saw here yesterday was quite interesting as price finally broke down that bullish trend line and then broke down the 137.00 level, giving us an opportunity to sell the USDJPY at that particular point in time. And I hope you took advantage of that move. If you did, kudos to you, as price moved about how many pips? It took us out of the buy position with over 500 pips. Then it went to as far as 90 pips before we started seeing this bullish momentum again. Now, with the current structure we have here, what is going to be our expectations for today? Well, we are going to be very dynamic on the USDJPY, and the reason is simply because the possibility of either a bullish momentum or a bearish momentum at this point in time is still very, very possible. And why have I said that? Well, first of all, let's look at the possibility of a buy opportunity on the USDJPY before we go into the options of selling the USDJPY. Now, look at what we have here on the 1 hour time frame. We can see we have an ascending channel, and this is as a result of connecting the series of higher lows and higher highs here. So we had the ascending channel figured out, though we had a little breakout of that structure to give us a signal that the tendency of a bullish momentum is still very strong in this market. Now, price dropped to as far as the 136.500 level, which also shares a confluence with the support level of this channel, but though price didn't come to test that level, and that's a sign that buyers are very strong. And look at the low here compared to the previous low. We have the previous low at the 136 level, and the second low here falls around the 136.400. So we can see it's a higher low, giving us a clue that buyers are still very strong at this point. So for us to buy the USDJPY for today, what I will be looking forward to is a breakout of the 137 level to join the trend continuation to the upside. So we shall be looking forward to a situation where price breaks out of the structure, taking out all the sell position here to gather some liquidity to join a potential bullish momentum. So if we start seeing buy pressure right around the 137.00 level or above that structure, we want to be joining the rally to the upside, and a breakout of the 138.00 level retest of structure should be giving us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Remember, our take profit target still falls around the $139.500 level. And the reason why we have the 139.500 level as our take profit target is simply because of how that level also shares a confluence with the bearish trend line that has been holding selling pressure since the later part of the month of October. So we can see we have this bearish trend line here. So and it also lines up with the 139.500. So we want to see how price action is going to relate to that structure to decide if we are going to be adding more position to our existing trade, that is price breaks out of that structure, then we want to be joining the rally to the upside. And if we start seeing selling pressure right below that level, then price might likely respect that bearish trend line one more time to send price crashing to the downside. So that is the scenario we are going to be looking out for to buy the USDJPY. And if the buy opportunity comes in above the 137 level here, then we should be expecting how many pips that is for us if price climbs up the 137. So we should be expecting about 200 pips, 240 pips thereabout, with our stop loss placed right below the previous structure here. And let's see how price action plays from that level. So that is one scenario we are looking out for to buy the USDJPY. Now, looking at the current structure here, let me quickly run through the 2 or 3 hours time frame here. And let's see what has been happening here since the mid-month, since the month of November here. Now, if we look at the structure here from a long-term prospect, at least in the space of 2 months now, we can see that the USDJPY has been on a bearish momentum. And the recent breakdown of structure happened here on the last day of the month of November. We saw the breakdown of the 138.00 level, a level which has been holding by pressure for like 2 or 3 weeks here. Then we saw the breakdown of that structure happen here. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure, we expect that price is likely going to come back, do a retest of structure to signal another wave of bearish momentum. So now, since yesterday, we have been witnessing selling pressure right below the 138.00 level to give us a clue that we might be having selling pressure coming in from that area. And this is evident yesterday when we saw price break down the 137.00 level, which we took advantage of. Price came back to do a retest of structure. And again, we started seeing selling pressure here in the last 16 hours. Is it 12 hours? We've been seeing selling pressure from that area to further emphasize that sellers still have the tendency to push price to the downside. So for us to be on a safer side here, if we are going to be selling the USDJPY, I want to see price break down the 136.500 level. Now, this is the 136.500 level. And if you look closely into that structure, you can see how that level also shares a confluence with the support level of the ascending channel here. So if price breaks down that structure, we want to be seeing this as a bearish signal, after which selling pressure on our lower time frame right below the structure should be giving us an opportunity to join the decline to the downside. So this is how we want to be selling the USDJPY. We are not selling right below the 137.00 level because we need further confirmation that selling momentum will come in here. So, and that we are going to be looking forward to price breaking down the 136.500, a level which also shares a confluence with the support level of that channel. Then selling pressure below that level should be giving us that advantage to join that decline to the downside. But if price continue to the upside in such a way that price breaks above the 137, then we want to be buying the USDJPY. So it's a very simple setup here. So let's get ourselves prepared so that we can take advantage of this move when it finally happens. So that is that on the USDJPY. If you have questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section while I move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the AUDUSD. And on the AUDUSD, remember we took advantage of a selling opportunity here at the beginning of the week after price broke down the 0.67800 level. This is what we saw at the beginning of the week here. Price broke down this channel. Remember, we had a channel between the 0.68500. So we saw the resistance level of that channel here. Then we saw the support level of this channel at the 0.67800 level. Then we witnessed the breakdown of that structure to give us a clue that sellers might likely come in from this point. And since then, we have been in the sell position as price moved over 100 pips in our favor before we started seeing this buy pressure coming right around the 0.66900 level. Now, with the look of things right now, how do we intend to trade this during the New York session today? Well, you can see since the beginning of the week, we have been seeing sellers negate all buyer attempts around the 0.67400. You can see here every attempt by the sellers to by the buyers to break out of the 0.67400 has been met with strong resistance from the sellers. The same thing happened here during the New York session yesterday. We saw sudden attempt coming from that same area, and during the early hours of today too as well, we have been seeing selling pressure right around that area. And if we look at the structure here from a technical standpoint, it's looking more like a reversal pattern in the form of a head and shoulder pattern. So you can see we have the inverse head and shoulder. We have the head here, then it come back into the neckline. Then we have the right shoulder here, which is a little bit higher than the previous shoulder. And you can see that's the head and shoulder pattern here. And this will not be mature unless a breakout of the 0.67400 happens, followed by buy pressure right above the 0.67400 to incite another wave of bullish momentum, which might likely be a retracement of that impulsive move that we took advantage of at the beginning of the week. Remember, we had this impulsive move, so it might be a retracement into either the bullish trend line that was broken or the 0.67800, where we shall be seeing selling pressure that might likely incite another wave of bearish momentum to the downside. So that is if price breaks above the 0.67400. So for our trading activities for the New York session today, we shall be using the 0.67400 level as our yardstick. So a breakout of that structure will likely give us a clue that we want to be getting ready to join a counter trend opportunity to the downside, to the upside rather. And if price continues to trade below the structure, then we want to remain comfortable in our sell position. So during the early hours of today, I took advantage of an opportunity right below the 0.67250 level, where I'm hoping that price will continue to trade to the downside. So if you are taking advantage of that, let's see how price action will play out from that point. Now, in addition to the 0.67400, to make our job easier during the New York session today, I will like to connect the series of higher lows here to also guide our trading activity, though we had a breakdown of that structure here. So we have this temporary trend line. We'll call it a temporary one in the meantime. So we have price respect that trend line. Though we had a breakdown of that structure, price climbed up immediately and it has been respecting that trend line. So if you had missed out on this opportunity here, well, you want to be patient to see price break down, retest that structure, then you want to be joining that decline to the downside from that level. So if you had missed out on this, let's see price break down the structure, retest, then we could join the decline to the downside. And if you're already part of the sell position right below the 0.67400, then a breakdown of this trend line, retest, followed by selling pressure on our lower time frame should be giving us an opportunity to add more position to this trade. And if price continues to the downside in such a way that it breaks down to 0.66900, a retest of structure should further give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So our take profit target still remains between the 0.65600 level and the 0.6400 area. So let's see how price action will play out during the later part of the week, as all highs is focused on the Michigan consumer sentiment coming up tomorrow. So these are my views here on the AUDUSD. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section. And one thing I also want us to look at is the daily time frame. First, let's look at the daily time frame and let's see what is really going on there and see if the setup we were able to identify on the 1 hour time frame lines up with what we are seeing on the daily time frame. So now when we look at the daily time frame here, it's obvious that price action has been on a long-term bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and we had this bearish trend line figured out here. Besides the structure, besides the bearish trend line, is the 0.6700 level, which has been a major determinant of price action since the month of July. So we can see how that level has been a buy niche for participants in this market at one point in time, that is in the month of July. And then the same thing happened here in the month of September before the breakdown of that structure happened during the later part of the month of September. And since then, price has been trading below that structure to emphasize the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. Now, price has come back into the 0.6700 level. In fact, we have a huge consolidation phase as soon as price got into that structure, further emphasizing the indecision in this market as we need a signal to guide our trading activity going forward. Now, if we look at the structure here, price is around the 0.6700 level, and anywhere below the 0.6700 level could incite a bearish momentum, considering the fact that this level has been a selling niche at one point in time. We saw what happened here also in the month of November. So if a breakout of the breakdown of that structure happens, we might be looking forward to selling opportunity. And in addition to that structure here, if we connect the series of higher lows here, we can see we have this trend line. So to further emphasize the importance of sellers at this point, is a breakdown retest of the structure might likely send price crashing to the downside from that area. However, if buy pressure continues right above the 0.670 level, well, we might be looking to buy price. And if price breaks out of the 0.67800, a retest of structure should further give us a confirmation to add more position to our buy position here on the AUD USD. So that is my view here on the AUD USD. So if we go back to the 1 hour time frame and look at the 0.6700 level, we shall be looking forward to selling right below that structure. So here we are on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so this is the 1 hour time frame here. So we have the 0.6700 level. So this is the 0.6. I want us to identify that 0.670 level, which we identified on the daily time frame. So we have the 0.6700. Okay, I think it's around this level. Hold on a second. Okay, 0.67100. That is okay, 0.67100. All right, so we have it around here. So breaking below that structure should further give us, and you can see here it also lines up with that bullish trend line. So like I said, if you had missed selling right below the 0.67400, let's wait and see if price will break down this structure with selling pressure right below that level for us to join that decline to the downside. And please keep open the options of a breakout retest of 0.67400 to take advantage of a bullish momentum when that happens. So that is that on the AUD USD. I hope I made myself clear. If you have questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section while I do a quick recap of what our expectations are for today. So we treated the US oil this morning, and what was our expectation on the US oil? Remember, we had this situation here where we can see that price has been caught within a tight channel between the 73.20 and the 72.40 level. And one thing I stated here is that we want to remain patient. Remember, we have been profitable since the beginning of the week, and we don't want to lose any of the profit we had made so far. So let's be patient here and wait out for either a breakout of the 73.20, which also shares a confluence with the trend line, to join the bullish momentum, which I said take profit target should be sitting at the 79.50 level. And if price continue to move in our favor, kindly move your stop loss accordingly to lock in and protect your position against any sudden pullback. Then the other scenario we stated here is if a breakdown of the 72.40 level happens, retest of structure should be giving us a confirmation to join that decline to the downside. So it's a very simple setup. Please be on standby so that you can take advantage of that move when it finally happens. Then we went on to talk about the US tech here. And on the US tech, we have been selling the US tech since the beginning of the week. but we are in a consolidation phase right now, just right above the 11,500, a very important key level identified on the daily time frame here. So one thing I stated here is that I will not be selling at this point in time, considering the buy pressure we have been witnessing here. See, in the last 24-48 hours, we have been witnessing buy pressure around that area. So I have said we should hold on and wait for a breakdown of the 11,430 to give us a signal that sellers are still very strong in this market before we want to be joining that decline to the downside. However, if price continues to the upside in such a way that it breaks out of the 11,580, or probably break out of that bullish trend line, followed by buying pressure on our lower time frame, we want to be joining that decline to that rally to the upside with a take profit target sitting around the 11,900. And remember, as price action moves in our favor, we want to be moving our stop loss accordingly. Remember, we are on a counter trend opportunity if a buy momentum comes in at this point. So that is my view here on the US tech. And I said something here that if that reversal pattern happens and price gets into the 11,700, remember how important that level is on the daily time frame. I shared that with you earlier, and we start seeing selling pressure below that level, then we want to be selling. Remember, this level has been holding selling pressure for quite a while, so if price comes back to do a retest of that structure, then we want to be joining that decline to the downside from that level. Then we went on to talk about the XAUUSD, and we had a situation here on the XAUUSD where we have been enjoying this bearish momentum since the beginning of the week, and as soon as price got into the 1,767 level, we have been in a consolidation phase, further emphasizing the indecision in the market. So we took advantage of the breakout of the resistant level at the 1,780 retest of structure. We joined the rally to the upside, which fetched us about 900,000 pips before the selling momentum comes in at this point. And if you look at the structure here, you can see price action respected the sell window. Price action moved close to the 618% retracement of the previous impulse leg, and then we saw selling momentum come in, and price is yet to be able to break the previous high. As we saw a lower high here. And one thing I stated here to make our job easier during the New York session today is to identify this 1,783 level, which I will be using as my yardstick for trading activity. So what I want to be looking forward to is price breaking down the 1,783, followed by selling pressure on my lower time frame below that structure. Then we could join that decline to the downside. But instead, if price does not break down and price continues to go to the upside, well, I was able to identify this trend line here after connecting the series of lower highs. So if price breaks out of that trend line, then we might be seeing the buy pressure here becoming strong enough to probably incite a move to the upside. So a retest of structure followed by buy pressure right above this level could incite another wave of bullish momentum. So this is how we're going to be trading the XAUUSD. So let's keep our options open at this particular point in time. So below the 1,783, we want to be comfortable in our sell position, and if price breaks out of the bearish trend line here, we want to be buying the XAUUSD. So that is that on the XAUUSD. Then we went on to talk about the USDJPY, where we saw we were able to enjoy over 500 pips on the USDJPY since the beginning of the week, as price action was caught within an ascending channel. And we have this ascending channel running at this particular point in time, and we hope that the ascending channel will continue to hold bullish momentum. So what we are looking forward to buy the USDJPY from this current structure is the 137.00 level. So if price breaks out of that structure with buy pressure right above that level, then we want to be joining that rally to the upside with the hopes of adding more position if we have a breakout retest of the 138.00 level to the upside. So our take profit target still remains around the 139.500, which also lines up with the bearish trend line. So we want to see how price action will relate to that structure going forward if price move that far. Then the other setup we are looking forward to is considering the long-term bearish momentum we have on the USDJPY here, as price broke down the 138 Japanese yen level, a level which has been holding by pressure prior to that incident. So the breakdown of that structure from a technical standpoint, we expect that price might likely come back, retest of that structure to further send price crashing to the downside. And what we saw here in the last 48 hours is that we have been witnessing selling pressure below the 138 Japanese yen level, which finally led to the breakdown of the 137, and we have been witnessing selling pressure around this area as well. So what I said here is that we want to be patient to sell the USDJPY and wait for price to break down the 136.500, a level which also shares a confluence with the support level of the ascending channel, after which selling pressure below that structure should be giving us an opportunity to join that decline to the downside. So it's a very simple setup. Don't get it twisted here. We have to we have the 137.00 level, break out of that structure to give us an opportunity to buy, and we have the 136.500 level, the breakdown of the support level of this ascending channel, to sell the USD JPY. Then we went on to close the day with the AUDUSD, where we have been enjoying bearish momentum since the beginning of the week. Price moved over 100 pips in our favor before we started seeing this consolidation phase between the 0.67400 and the 0.66900. In fact, we have a situation where price action has evolved into a reversal pattern in the form of a inverse head and shoulder pattern. But this inverse head and shoulder pattern will not be mature until price breaks out of the neckline area, which is situated at the 0.67400 level. Buy pressure above that level, then we might be looking forward to a bullish momentum. However, if price continue to trade below the 0.67400, we continue to look out for selling opportunities here on our lower time frame. As you can see how that level has been holding selling pressure since the breakdown of that structure happened here on Monday. So let's see how price action is going to play out from here. Now, there's another opportunity to sell here if price continues to the downside, breaking down this bullish trend line, at the same time breaking down the 0.67100 level. So if that happens, followed by selling pressure right below that structure in our lower time frame, we want to be joining that decline to the downside. So these are my views here on the AUDUSD, and I hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that is likely going to be happening during the New York session today. So I advise that you be on standby. I hope you are able to screenshot, munch my screen, so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about to make your own individual decision on the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck today, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 11 a.m. West African time, 10 a.m. UTC. And let's come here again to review how well the pairs we have been monitoring has been doing so far. And let's get ourselves prepared for the New York session tomorrow. So do have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.